What do you say, everybody? And welcome to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. 50,000 of you guys have subscribed. We love all of you, and we want to remind you that if you're not a subscriber yet, join. It's easy and it's free. Just go ahead and click that button. Also, give us the thumbs up as you watch tonight. It's time for Monday Night Quarterback, and that's where we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of Alabama athletics. I would say Alabama football, but because of the basketball program, we're talking a lot of different things right now. Not just football, not just recruiting, but also basketball. We might even get into some of the other sports as we go on tonight. But we appreciate all of you guys for being here, and a hearty Roll Tide coming at you. All right, let's introduce the cast of Monday Night QB. He's the beat writer for BamaInsider, the Alabama rival site. Follows the Crimson Tide on a day in and day out basis, Mr. Tony Tsoukalas. Then you got the man that's actually still taking classes at Alabama. You can't call this man a walk-up alumni. Nope, that's because eventually he's going to get a degree from the capstone itself, Mr. Trey Yannity. And I'm Mick Gillespie. Beat you to that degree, my friend. Did graduate from the Crimson Tide's home campus many years ago, and we'll sit around and talk about that program that we all follow and some of us love tonight. But we appreciate all you guys. Hey, and as you watch, make sure you comment in the comment section. Also, super chats are appreciated. When you hit us with a super chat, you go right to the front of the line with whatever comment that you have. But, you say that there's not a lot going on. I say the same thing. There's not a lot going on right now. Football, we're kind of waiting. I guess the big news in football is that Ty Simpson, the quarterback, is going to pick between Alabama and Clemson, although I heard some people saying that it's Alabama, Clemson, and Tennessee. That's coming up on Friday. Andrew Bone will be talking about that tomorrow night on his show. We might dip into a little bit of that tonight. We're waiting on spring football practice to start, but I'm telling you right now, we got a lot of basketball to talk. That's because Alabama is going to win the SEC. I'm going out on a limb and saying that for the first time since 2002. Tony, Alabama will be SEC champs. They play at Arkansas on Wednesday. If they win that basketball game, they're the outright champs that night. If they lose, then a lot of bad things would have to happen for them not to win. I mean, they're right now with 3 games to go, maybe 4. It depends if they make that Texas A&M game up, but they're right now 3.5 up with 3 to go. But there's that other game that could be possibly played. I don't know. Alabama's going to win this thing.
It's going to be really hard for them not to win. It's just a matter of, can they lock it up Wednesday night in Arkansas? And the thing I look at when I look at that game is, look, the last few big matchups Alabama's had, or at least the last 2 big ones that they've had, were, at Oklahoma and at Missouri, and they dropped both of them. So I think you go into Arkansas, you have a chance to do something special that you haven't done in almost 20 years. I think it would be a big statement if they were to get that done Wednesday night. I mean, it's going to happen regardless, but I think it says something about this team if they're able to go into a game that they know is a big game that has big ramifications and just get the job done. I think that would give them a lot of confidence, and it's one of their only big test before they start really facing some bigger ones in both the tournaments they're going to be in, both the SEC tournament and then also the NCAA tournament.
13-1. I mean, it's been since the middle 80s since Wimp Sanderson's Alabama team won 13 conference games. Trey, how old were you back in the 86 Bama season?
We do a lot of negatives on this show. That one's -13 for me on that one. It's been a while. This team is different though, and today they're up to 6th in the rankings, their highest since late in that 2000 season. It's this team's a team of destiny. Maybe this team is special. You kind of saw it early on, but what's been so cool about this team is they've continued to get better as the season has gone on. They've had their struggles here recently, like Tony's talking about. You go on the road, you get the sluggish starts at Oklahoma, at Missouri. Another slow start on Saturday in a game that people are a little bit upset about. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But this team is rolling, and barring anything just absolutely insane happening, they will be SEC regular season champions. And I'd be pretty surprised if they don't win the tournament there in Nashville as well.
That'd be big. I mean, that would be an achievement too. I think the SEC regular season title is more indicative of like who the best team in the SEC is. But let's be honest, winning that tournament, if I could take one of the two, I think I'd take the tournament, right?
No, wrong. You don't get a ring for the tournament,
but an automatic bid
for the regular season.
Yeah, do you not get a ring for the tournament? You can get a ring whatever you want to get a ring for.
Yeah,
make a ring.
You do not get a ring for the SEC tournament. You do get a bid to the NCAA tournament, but you don't get a ring for you don't put a banner up for the SEC tournament. You put a banner up for the regular season. The regular season is definitely the crowning jewel of basketball. I mean, the tournament's great, but that's a 3-day span. I mean, to be able to win the SEC and put that up in the rafters, I mean, that stays there forever, Tony.
So you're saying that you could put it in the rafters if you win the SEC basketball tournament championship, right?
I think so. I think you put it up either way, and it's going to be interesting to see how this team handles the SEC tournament because at that point. Even right now, they don't need to do anything else to make the NCAA tournament this year. So if they win the SEC tournament or not, they're in. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of manage the tournament style play and how they do because seeding wise, they'll probably be a double bye. They'll probably get to play maybe Ole Miss or one of the middle of the pack teams in their first game there. So I don't see why not. I guess to be a third party settle this argument. I think the tournament means a little bit more, Mick. I'm sorry. I know the banner, everything else, but there's just something about the emotions of that weekend. And, winning that title game is just something different.
Not to get negative, Mick, but like when you look at it, look, Alabama hasn't been in the NCAA tournament. So they're not like an experienced team. So, I mean, like the chances of them going in and winning the whole NCAA tournament, I mean, like even if you're an Alabama supporter and you're super optimistic, which you should be because you have a really good team, the chances are it's probably not going to happen. The odds are against you in that regard, right? But I feel like Alabama's the favorite for the SEC basketball tournament, and I think that like getting to hoist that trophy, getting to win a tournament, I mean, like there's a good chance that we end this season, and that's the thing we remember about this Alabama basketball team is like those 3 days in Nashville. So I actually think that's a huge deal for Alabama.
I disagree with you guys adamantly. I think the regular season means more. You'll find out when Alabama wraps up the regular season just what it means. And besides Kentucky, you guys got to believe this. And Brian Pasick, who's the color commentator for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, a former Alabama basketball player, he reminds us often that the Alabama has the second best basketball tradition in SEC history, but it's been a while since the Crimson Tide can say that they're champs tournament or regular season, but regular season is the bigger crown. Let's go back to Saturday when Alabama played Vanderbilt. It was a game that they won. It was a little bit of a struggle for the Crimson Tide, but it improved their record to 13-1 in the SEC and 18-5 overall. Things are starting to look really good for this Crimson Tide team, and it's a game that you expected to win. They did 82-78. Give Vandy credit, though, for hanging in there. But, Tony, you were covering the beat that night. I thought it was really cool to see Barnes get the start. And from all reports, and I want to hear your account of this, it was Reese that told the coach, hey, I think we should put him in.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of like, I don't know, you guys have seen the movie Rudy where, so Reese comes up to Oates about 35 minutes before the game and says, look, coach, I want, Tyler Barnes to take my spot. Oates is not really I think Oates was touched by the sentiment, but he wasn't going to not start Reese. So I think, but it did really open up Nate's eyes to starting Tyler Barnes, and the whole team was on board with it. But it was really Alex Reese's idea, and he was willing to give up his starting spot on Senior Day. You got to think Alex Reese has been pretty involved in this team the last 4 years. He deserves a start on Senior Day. But he was willing to give up that spot for Tyler Barnes, who's been a walk-on, been a really big part of Alabama's prep in practice and just a real team guy. He's a walk-on that made it through 2 coaching regimes, which doesn't always happen. So I think it says a lot about Alex Reese and his team-first approach to be willing to give that up. And then we saw Tyler Barnes. He played, I think, a little under 3 minutes. he airballed the three, but he got a rebound, so he made an impact in the game. And I think it was just nice for him to get out there, have that start, and I'm sure that moment meant a ton to him as well.
What about from the student's perspective? I know you're more than just a student to us, Trey, but just kind of take us through what the students see. I remember being, on campus, and when the walk-ons would get a chance to play, a lot of times, mostly it'd be at the end of the game. We would go crazy, for the guy that got a chance to come into the game, and you could normally tell the difference between them and the regular players. And then when I started to broadcast basketball, and I would go to shoot around and I would go to practice, I realized that these guys are instrumental in what the team does to get ready to play every day. They're out there busting their tail, diving for balls. They're trying to be competitive. They want to push those starters and the guys that play regularly to be better. But from a student's perspective, how cool was that?
Oh, it's just so cool. And, thinking about it as a student, I can't speak for everybody in the student section, but most of us aren't athletic enough to play basketball, any sport at this level. So, seeing those players, it's a little bit more relatable. They don't play every minute. They don't start any of these games. Guy like Tyler Barnes to go through all 4 years, like Tony said, making it through 2 different coaches and all new staffs, such a vital part of practice. And so many other things that people don't get to see. That's the thing. I think people maybe think about these players like, they're just on the team, if they play or not, whatever. But these guys put in so much in practice and preparation and everything else, and are a vital part of Alabama's success. Seeing Tyler Barnes get the start, you usually see him late game, and they're still giving that effort. Him and Britton Johnson all season, they're still giving max effort, even if it's a 30-point game in one way or the other. It was so cool to see him be able to get in there and start and give that same effort, but in a game that was 0-0 to begin. The student section, I wasn't there for Saturday's game, but from what I heard, the student section went absolutely crazy when they heard that he was getting the start.
Well, it's a great gesture. I loved what Nate Oates said about the seniors. There's 7 seniors that were honored as part of the game against Vanderbilt on Saturday. And Nate Oates was also honored by Greg Byrne, the athletic director. Tony, I'm going to lean on you again for this, but on Thursday it was announced that he had an extension to his contract. So instead of making that measly $2.5 million, he upped that to $3.25 million, and also on top of that, pushed the deal for another 3 years. Honestly, I feel like Alabama really has to do something like this to keep this guy in town. Me personally, I want your opinion, but I feel like even with more money, if Alabama may have to compete with some other teams for this guy if he continues to do these things, like have this team this competitive and this good. Someone else may come in and still buy him away.
Yeah, first of all, the contract extension through the 26-27 season, that shows Alabama's intent of look, they realize what they have in Nate Oates and that they're willing to invest in that. That kind of tells me that, in a couple of years, if a team did come after Nate Oates, I think they'd up his contract again. I think even after the extension in the improved salary, I think you could make the case that he's still a little underpaid. Just when you look at him in comparison to some of the other coaches out here. Then again, he still probably has to prove himself a little bit more at Alabama. He hasn't even done a tournament yet. I mean, they're obviously going to get there, and they're going to be a high seed, and they'll probably make a big run. But we'll see before we start talking about him being underpaid now. But he's definitely one of the best coaches in college basketball at the moment, and so I think this is a little bit more reflective of that. I think there might even be some room to grow in the future. I know one of the things that was involved in that contract is the buyout is high on either side. So if Alabama was to get rid of Nate Oates, they would have to pay him a lot. And if he was to move on, he would have to pay Alabama a lot. So I think both sides are committed to each other. That's important. And it just shows an overall just commitment to excellence for the basketball program, which is big, which is, I think, what you really want to see, because Alabama has a chance to be something special if they invest towards it.
Trey, I don't want to throw shade, as your guys, you kids would say. I don't want to throw shade on Nate Oates. You've heard that term, right, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just making sure. I don't want to throw shade on this guy, but let me just play devil's advocate for a second here, okay? This season, you're talking about less practice. They didn't finish up last year. All of well, not all of them, but a lot of the normal contenders in basketball, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, go through the list. They're not involved in the top 25 right now. They're out of it. I feel like a big reason is COVID. You're talking about a lot of players that are young that come in with talent, and maybe they haven't had the practice that they're used to, whatever. Right. Alabama has 7 seniors. This is a senior-laden team in a year where you haven't had a lot of practice, and they obviously are a touch better than every team in the SEC. A touch being that, look, they've won 13 of 14. That's really brilliant, right? Outside of the conference, they're about 500. So they haven't been great. They've been mediocre. Is he worth this contract? And do you think that the circumstances that are surrounding everything going on in the world right now have helped Alabama, and Nate Oates is the guy that's gotten them the most ready? Maybe he's had the team that's been the most ready to win this year. Or is he worth this? Is he a rising star? Do we have somebody here that's a star in the making?
I think in the making might even be the wrong wordage there. I think he's already a star. I think Alabama would have probably done this, last season if he had been able to finish it out and maybe show some success in the SEC tournament. Nate Oates is an A++ hire that Greg Byrne made last year. It was the best hire he could have made. Maybe Mike Young from Wofford, but there was nobody who was complaining with Nate Oates. You talk about this season and the success that Alabama's had, and you got to keep that in mind. Okay, Kentucky's not very good this year. Duke's not very good this year. North Carolina, Kansas is kind of mediocre. A lot of these schools that are usually at the top aren't. But if you look at Alabama's schedule, every single school they play on the schedule, win or loss, has been in the top 3 quadrants, with the exception of Kentucky, which is really ironic there. But this schedule is absolutely loaded. Alabama has maybe benefited off of COVID in some ways or another, just because of how prepared they've been and how disciplined they've been able to be in comparison to some other schools. But at the same time, COVID's hurt this team. Alabama was supposed to play Houston. I think it was the Saturday of the conference championships for football. And that game was canceled because of COVID. Alabama would have gone to Houston to play a team that was in the top 10 at the time, and a team that they probably weren't going to beat. If you lose that game, whatever, you lost to a top 10 team on the road. That same day, they canceled that game and decided to put Western Kentucky in Houston's spot. Western Kentucky came to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama that day. Alabama's worst loss far and away. After that game, they went on a 14-game win streak and, have just dominated since then. So I think that goes both ways as far as COVID goes. But take this season out even. Look at the way he's recruited. Look at the way that these players are playing the game. Forget about the wins and losses. Look how many shots they're getting up a game. Look how many shots they're knocking down a game. The defensive efficiency, the way they're forcing turnovers, the way they pass the basketball, the way they can break the press. All of that comes from Nate Oates' coaching. And it's been evident because you look at guys like John Petty and Herb Jones that were, with the old regime, and they were great players then, but now they have a purpose on this team, and they're able to, put their energy towards a very strategic plan that he's set up here. So, 26, 27 isn't that long. I would have signed him up for longer, to be honest, but then you start talking bigger dollar signs. I think Nate Oates is going to be here to stay, and if he's not, he will be, making a coaching upgrade somewhere.
Great to have all you guys with us. Thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. This is BamaInsider, the Alabama Rivals site. He's Tony Tsoukalas and Trey Yanity. Above him, I'm Mick Gillespie. It's great to have all you guys here tonight as we talk a little bit of basketball to lead off the show. All right, well, look, I'm not going to argue there. I feel like that Nate Oates obviously has a game plan, and Alabama had a high standard that they weren't making the tournament. They wanted someone that not only was going to be able to make the tournament, they were going to come in and win. And I love that. I love the idea of saying, hey, you know what? We have high expectations here. Nate Oates is going to stick around, and I feel like one of the reasons why he signed that contract is that he knows there's going to be some money put into Coleman Coliseum. Coleman Coliseum, to me, there are 14 different teams that make up the SEC now. It started out with, 8, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And Coleman Coliseum has the distinction, in my opinion, Tony, to be the worst place to play basketball in the entire SEC. How do I know? I've been to every single one of them. I've worked games at every single one of them. There's really the only place that was worse was Ole Miss. They got a new arena. So let's talk about this Coleman Coliseum project, because Alabama is about to do some upgrades. Do we do what I want to do? Go get some dynamite and blow the thing up and start over? Or do we rebuild from within? Do we tear this thing? Do we tear all the seats out and somehow save the building?
I just don't see them, blowing it up. I don't see them just totally starting from scratch with a new arena. So, I don't necessarily think they have to. I do think you need to find a way to get, especially the students, closer to the floor to kind of create that home field advantage. I know there's a big push to have a smaller stadium. That certainly works for Auburn if you've been there, and I think that's been the comparison, is the environment there is so much better. But I would argue that Alabama could probably, with its new team, and the interest around the program right now, I think that they could fill up more of Coleman, if it was allowed right now, without COVID. So I don't necessarily totally buy into their, has to be limited seats to create a good environment. I could see that point, but I don't necessarily think you have to move away from Coleman, but you definitely have to enhance the presence there, and it needs a faceless. It needs, fans closer to the court. It can get kind of cavernous in there, and it's, it is pretty spacious building, and I think you need to do some things to spruce it up a bit, because it looks dreary in there. It's if you're trying to put it this way, Alabama would never let Bryant Denny get to the point where Coleman Coliseum is right now.
Well, I love the fact that you threw that picture up there, Trey, because it reminds me of just how terrible the seats are when you go about 20 rows up and back. I mean, can you imagine having that as your seat way back up against the air raid siren up there? I mean, look, the problem that I have is with keeping, the bunker here and trying to rebuild, is that when you go to the arenas that are awesome, they're high, right? They're small. I'm not saying Auburn's is the best arena, because it's not. Tennessee's and Arkansas's and Kentucky's are the ones that you want to try to model after, right? And they're high. You go in there and the court's kind of down here, and then the seats are close and they go straight up, and then you have the boxes at the upper level. You're able to sell those. At Tennessee, they have concerts there. Acts like Chris Stapleton will roll in and play concerts there. Why not Alabama? And now that you're actually able to have alcohol sales, you can make a lot of money, generate more revenue for your university if you had an arena that was, kind of built for basketball. I always felt like this gym was perfect for Sarah Patterson when she was running off all those national championships in gymnastics. I never got that place until I worked my first gymnastics match. And it was what is it, 16,000 people, and they're going nuts over, the floor routine that, this girl just did with a triple whatever jump, and people are going crazy. Basketball, I was there the last time Alabama won the SEC. And it was exciting. I mean, the layup, I was on the court. I was one of the first people that ran out as a student. I was your age, Trey. When Petway laid it up, I was there. But it still didn't have the energy that gymnastics have. That's the problem with this place. Now, it's going to be a lot more expensive, Trey, to tear it down. But do you agree with me where I think that Alabama needs to have a state-of-the-art arena? Now's the time to do it, put the money in and get it done right? Or are you with Tony where you're taking this old dinosaur, this relic, and you're going to try to just paint a pig? Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, I like the analogy though. Paint a pig, man. I don't know if I'll be painting a pig. In a perfect world, I'm not. In a perfect world, I'm blowing this thing up. It's a terrible arena. It's an airplane hangar that isn't very accessible from the back, where you're bringing in all your big event type stuff. It's not super accessible from the front either. It has a nice, drive up and everything. But I think if you had the money to, you start over entirely. But I don't think they will, because they just, did the Crimson Standard. Football just got their renovation. Softball just got their renovation. Every program is apparently getting some kind of renovation. So I feel like, realistically, you're probably not going to see much of a difference on the outside. But on the inside, you can really make this thing look cool. Like you're talking about, Mick, get these seats on the floor and then, make them go up a little bit. Put in 2 decks. If you look at this picture right here, I'll zoom in a little bit. There's just pretty much one grandstand. That's a little bit too far zoomed in. But,
pause that for 1 second. Do that again. Just pause that 1 second. I want you to roll all the way up to the Tony Sucala seats, like right up there in the top. No, I'm just kidding, Tony. Those are the Bob Uecker seats, okay? Who wants to sit up there? I mean, like
it's one deck. That's the thing. They try to make it into two decks. They split it by a concourse right now, but all that does is just push the seats further away from the floor. It's got drafts and everything else. It is just not a good arena. It is so dated. Honestly, the undercarriage of it, the offices are pretty nice. The Nike shoe facility they have down there is nice. The press conference room is solid. The locker rooms are really nice now. But as far as everything that you can see if you're a fan, gut it. Get rid of it. Start over. But I just don't think they're going to blow it up right now.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not against blowing it up. Let's just I just don't I'm not like a fan of Coleman Coliseum. Like don't let's not get that wrong. I just don't think it's practical. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think I'm just hoping for what you can get as someone that has to go there enough. Maybe if you just enhance the performance, it's probably a lot cheaper to upgrade than it is to just totally redo a new stadium. I don't see that happening.
And the timetable too, it probably takes, I remember Florida did theirs. I think it took them like half a season to a season to gut the inside. They played one season away. If you blow it up, you could maybe time it out correctly, but it's going to be a much tighter window to not miss any action or just the season.
If you did have a new stadium, you could put it anywhere. Where'd you put it? Because I think putting it by the new dorms, over in the Bryce area.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that could be really cool. Because if I was a freshman or something in the dorm, and there's no excuse not to go to the basketball arena if it's literally right outside your door. Basically, it could be kind of fun. And then you're kind of close to the river there on Jack Warner, so
you could even stick it next to the softball stadium, kind of make like a sports complex too over
there. Sure, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's that easy to get in there. If you put it back by Bryce, it'd be so much easier to come in on Jack Warner and get to the stadium and get out. Guys, I want to tell you about this former athletics director by the name of Mal Moore, okay? And Mal Moore not only is the guy that the football training facility or whatever is named after, but he was also a coach at Alabama under Bear Bryant. I mean, he has all these championship rings, and he was the athletic director when Alabama football was starting to slide the wrong way, right? And Coach Moore was also the athletic director when yours truly was in school, and he was always nice to yours truly when I was doing college radio. Love Mal Moore, right? The thing that makes Mal Moore one of the greats of all time is that he had this vision looking at Alabama's football stadium. And what you might not know is that there was a time when the football stadium in Tuscaloosa did not have an upper deck at all. And then they put one side upper deck in, and then they put another side upper deck in, and they played a lot of games in Birmingham. And he had this vision. We've got to not only build this stadium up, but to be as good as the teams in the SEC in the country, we got to build it up better. And that's when he started putting all these projects in where they did the zones and they did the upper end zones and gutted it and fixed it and gutted it and fixed it. Look, it's a lot different than basketball because Alabama football has a legacy of winning championships out on that field. We haven't won a championship in basketball since 2002. No one's going to miss Coleman Coliseum, right? My point is that you have to build these things past the standard of your competition, not to the standard, not close to the standard. Now's the time where you go and you invest and you make it better. So it's you got to have a better facility. And if Nate Oates is going to win championships, and if we're going to be serious about basketball and looking at the money that they're paying him, it looks pretty serious to me. I mean, that's a lot of money for a basketball coach at Alabama. It is Alabama. It is a football school. You've got to have those advantages. Coaching and facilities are two built-in advantages that you can buy legally in NCAA sports, Tony. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong, Mick. I'm all for it, too. Look, I go to all the games, too, or at least, most of them now that we're in COVID. And I would like a better viewing experience as well. So I'm all for it. I haven't been to as many of the arenas as you are. We don't necessarily travel for basketball. I've definitely been to Auburn, and it's a lot better, in terms of an environment. So I'd love something like that, just to kind of see it.
We're winning him over, Trey. I can feel it.
Slowly but surely here. No, it's it's tough.
I just want to be practical, guys. I mean, I don't,
He's looking out. Greg Burns going to give Tony a phone call after this. Be like, hey man, thanks for looking out for our wallets. You got the right idea, man. We're gonna
wallets. They got more money than Fort Knox right now. Nick Saban's come in, and this guy does nothing but win. They're printing money at that athletic department, and I mean, I'm telling you, I've been around it for a long time. When they stunk, they were making money. I mean, think about what they're doing right now. They've never been more in the black, and if you're ever going to make a move. Let's switch gears a little bit, guys, as we're talking about facilities and talk about baseball and softball. They're both in the top 25. When I was in school at Alabama, and I've said that a lot, but before I sound like the old guy in the room, Uncle Mick, I want to ask all of you guys that are hanging out with us tonight, make sure you are subscribing to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. We're at 50,000. I mean, we haven't quite hit it yet, but we are right there. And you guys are a big part of that. Give us a thumbs up as we hang out. This is Monday Night Quarterback. Tony Sucals, Trey Annity, and me, Mick Gillespie. All right, look, Alabama baseball used to be a thing. And I know you're probably saying to yourself, both of you guys, like, well, since I've been there, it's been a thing that nobody really cares about, But I remember when baseball, Jim Wells had the team going to the World Series, and when that starts happening again, Alabama fans will show up and they'll be a part of it. They used to have, and I think that's Old Stadium, right? Yeah, that's
talking about places that were totally run down and
it was a dump. It was awful. And they built this metropolis. It's a beautiful ballpark. And I think eventually it's going to help Alabama win. I love driving by it and looking. I broadcast the first ever game there. It was really special to me. Love the place.
It looked like a minor league park to a certain extent. I mean, it's even got like a little playground for kids.
Oh, yeah.
How cool is that? Yeah.
It's just mini AA parks even. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is great. I mean, like, to think that they went from that to what they have right now really is something. And they won before that, and and obviously they're kind of getting things on the right direction. So softball is doing really well, and now is the time though with football, when football is the thing that drives the bus. And so to be able to make these kind of investments, now's the time to do it. All right, guys, let's switch gears and talk a little bit of football. I know that people in the comment sections want to know about Ty Simpson. That was something that I wanted to get into today. He's making his decision on Friday between Alabama, Clemson, and Tennessee. People think that he may still go to Tennessee. Tony, give me 5 reasons why he's not going to Tennessee.
I can't give you 5 reasons why he would go to Tennessee. Like, there's just no. I can give you no reasons why he would go. Why would you go to Tennessee, especially at this moment when your other 2 choices are Alabama and Clemson? I mean, like, you're an elite quarterback. Tennessee's not putting out elite quarterbacks. Alabama and Clemson are. Tennessee's not competing for national championships. Alabama and Clemson are. That's such an obvious choice between those 2 schools. Now, if it becomes between Alabama and Clemson, I mean, shoot, you can go back and forth, depending on what do you want. I mean, both programs are top tier programs, but I can't. If he chooses Tennessee, that would just be because of a hometown deal for him. I mean, because I can't see a reason why you would choose them over. I think he's a top tier quarterback that needs to be a top tier program.
Well, I mean, to me, Trey, you look at just everything going on at Tennessee right now, the way that they fired Phil Fulmer, or he retired, and Pruitt, and then you talk about the fact that they've got NCAA issues on the horizon. They won 3 games last year. And they have had an exodus of players, including Henry Toho, who right now is in the transfer portal, ready to come to Alabama. Why would you want to go there? I mean, what would it be? Because they'd give you the football and let you be the guy that gets crushed without no one to block for you in the pocket?
I guess you get to sing Rocky Top as many times as you want. I have no idea. I mean, this is a program that's been struggling for a little bit here now, and you feel so bad for Tennessee fans because well, you don't really, but you want to console him, and you want to. This next hire is going to be the guy, or this next hire, this recruit is going to change things. I just don't see it happening right now. I don't see it happening really anytime soon. Ty Simpson, if he commits to Tennessee, that could be a big stepping stone. That could be a turning point, and maybe that's his thought. Maybe it's like, I'll just be another guy at Alabama. I'll be another guy at Clemson, or but at Tennessee, I could be the guy for 4 years, for 3 years potentially, and really turn this program around. That could be something. That's the only reason I can think of, though, because why would you not want to go to Alabama? We're doing a player spotlight on Christian Harris right now, and that was literally verbatim the question that Nick Saban asked him when he was deciding between LSU and Bama. Why would you not want to come to Alabama, especially right now, coming off the national title? You look at Clemson, they didn't even get there. Tennessee obviously isn't even close to that right now. This kid is very talented, and I think, the sale will be there. You get to come play for Bill O'Brien right now. Doug Marrone has obviously joined the offensive side of the staff. There's 2 NFL guys that have some contacts and can improve your game a lot. There's just so many reasons to be a quarterback and join this Alabama team right now. I think he will. I think he's leaning Clemson from what I've heard, but I wouldn't be shocked to be committed to Alabama either. I don't see it being Tennessee. There's no reason. Why would you do that?
And for all the people that say, like, oh, be the guy at Tennessee. Well, like, here's the thing. Ty Simpson, his whole life, I don't know him, but like as an elite quarterback like that, his whole life he's been the guy. He's used to being the guy, and he's not scared of a Bryce Young or a Paul Tyson or Jalen Milroe or anyone else on any other team, because he has always been the guy. He has confidence in himself. Just like Bryce Young, Paul Tyson, and Jalen Milroe, they're not scared of each other either. These guys are all elite quarterbacks who believe in themselves, who think that they're the best quarterback. So I don't buy the whole, like, oh, he's going to be afraid to compete. If he's of that mindset, then he shouldn't be an elite quarterback anyways. These guys come in, with the confidence of a racehorse, and like, that's just who they are. It's in their blood. It's what makes them so good at their position. So I don't expect him to come in and be afraid of the competition at either of those 2 schools. So I don't really buy into that. Oh, he could be the guy right away at Tennessee. I think he probably comes into and expects to compete right away at Alabama. That's just the way these guys mentally are built.
I have a tough time remembering who Tennessee's football coach is. Like, I had to look it up. Josh Heupel, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be an issue recruiting in the SEC. The Gus Malzahn, we all know, went to Central Florida. Not saying that he would have gone to Auburn, but Heupel's really going to have to prove himself. This would be a great way to get some momentum improving himself, right? He said that Heupel said right off the bat that he's got to close the borders of Tennessee. Here's a 5 or a 4-star quarterback that could eventually be a 5-star guy, one of the best in the country, big fella. Dad's a coach. He looks great on tape. Tennessee really wants him. I think Tennessee would have got him had they not fired Pruitt, but that's not the situation, and we're going to find out Friday. And then look, he may pick a team Friday and still not even stick to that. I mean, we still have a long way to go before he actually ends up inking and going to a team. But with all of that said, just very interesting to see how this shakes out. I feel like this is much bigger for Tennessee than it is for Alabama. Clemson obviously would love to have him. Alabama would love to have him. That's the big story in recruiting that we have this week. All right, guys, let's just go ahead and give a prediction. I know we're not Andrew Bone, but let's just pretend. I'm going to say he's going to Clemson. I just got this feeling. I look at the quarterback situation there, and I could just see him going to Clemson. It's close to 10. Well, you know what? I'm going to change that. I think he's going to go to Alabama. I think he's going to commit to Alabama. I don't know if he's going to go there. I think he's going to commit to Alabama, but it is razor thin. I mean, you just saw that. I said Clemson, and then I said Alabama. What do you think?
I guess I always side with Alabama on these just because, I want our readers to like me, and then and B, I don't really know much, and I don't like betting against Alabama because I'm usually wrong when I do. So I think Alabama's got as good of a shot as anyone for Ty. I think, but then again, Clemson's kind of the same way. I think you're right. It's probably a razor thin decision. But I am going to lean with Alabama on this one.
This is a tough one. I mean, he really could wake up Friday and make his decision, honestly. I had to look into the crystal ball. I'm leaning Alabama as well. I think that the quarterback room will open up. Obviously, Jalen Milroe is probably going to have that position there once Bryce Young's time is up, maybe even before then. But I think he realizes that he doesn't have to prove himself. He's very proven. And at Alabama, you get to this program and you just become better. It's not an ego fest. It's not one of these programs. Not really trying to take a stab here at Clemson, but it's kind of like Clemson where they really, pump up your players and, oh, you're the guy, you're this man. And we're going to storm the field after the game and do all this, that. Ty Simpson doesn't seem like that kind of kid. And I think he'll lean, Nick Saban's way. And if nothing else, just look at the history of kids that are picking between Clemson and Alabama, or even kids that are picking between Alabama and anywhere. They usually go Alabama. So I'll stick with you guys. It's a clean sweep here, but really, this one could go either way.
Yeah, I don't have a feel either way other than just, kind of what I've been told and looking at it. I don't think Tennessee has a chance. I just don't. I don't think that anyone's. If you're in his spot, why would you want to go there? And all you have to do is look at Mac Jones to realize that you can come to Alabama and Mac Jones is going to end up being drafted in the first round, and who knows how high he'll go. But you put your time in. You're not going to get a better coaching experience to be able to say you played for Nick Saban. But, Tony, you brought up a great point, too, with O'Brien and Marrone there. I mean, you're talking about working with NFL coaches, head coaches, every single day. So even the time that you're not in the game, you could still be building your status. And I just feel like this is one of those situations where even if he doesn't end up coming to Alabama in the long term, which, if you commit, it'd be great to see that. I think that he's going to pick Alabama. Plus that part of the country, if you go to Western Tennessee, Jackson and those areas, and obviously he's in Martin, Memphis, even Nashville. Alabama's had a history getting players from there. It's not that bad of a drive coming straight down and getting to campus for him and his family. This would be the time to be part of this Crimson Tide program. And besides that, look, all the momentum's been with Alabama. I mean, the recruiting's just been amazing here for Alabama the last few, this last recruiting class.
Look at these wristbands here, too, real quick. I just found this picture. Yeah. He's repping two teams here. Clemson is not one of them. I don't know when this picture was taken.
Uh-oh.
It's been a long time ago. But
I don't know. Do you know that white band underneath Tennessee? Because could that be a Clemson band and just turn back? Hey, Bandgate over here. We've got Bandgate on.
Nice find there. I didn't even notice that.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know if that lends to anything, but it's something to look out for.
Hey, very nice work there. All right, guys. Well, I mean, I think we've kind of hit most of the topics that we were going to get into tonight. How about this? Anything that you guys want to get into before we give our final thoughts?
Nothing really. Just that it's another busy week for Alabama basketball, and we're also going to have some football coverage up too. I'm starting my tomorrow. I'm starting my early enrollee kind of spotlight where we're going to take a look at each of the early enrollees. And that'll be fun to kind of go over with the next few weeks, just kind of breaking down some of these kids and what they're projected to do at Alabama and what they could possibly do next season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Tony. This week it's weird because this is a time of the year where everything's starting to get going again with all sports. Football is obviously, still kind of in a dead period, but basketball is going full force. We got baseball just returned this weekend. Softball is back, gymnastics, tennis. There's a lot going on here on campus. So, a lot to look out for. As far as BamaInsider goes, we got a lot of great content coming out again this week. We got more player profiles coming. Got Christian Harris. That should be good to go by tomorrow morning. And, just a lot of great articles out and shows and live shows like Monday Night Quarterback going on as well. What do you have going the rest of the week, Mick?
Well, look, tomorrow night we got Bone and Kyle will get together and they'll talk recruiting. And then Wednesday night I'll have our call-in show, and we'll kind of lead you right into the basketball game, because that's a game that I could not possibly come on here and talk over, right? Unless we did a watch party. I mean, like if Alabama wins that game and they win the SEC, that it's a rarity. I mean, like you're talking about 20 some years ago since they last won a conference championship. And you're going to see when they do that the regular season is way more impressive than the tournament. Although I hope they win both, to be honest with you. I'm just greedy. But we'll have that and much more as well. And we'll, be covering Ty Simpson as he picks what school he's going to on Friday. Andrew Bone will give his thoughts on that tomorrow. So it'll be a lot of fun stuff. And I mean, I'm excited about all of these other sports. And then, of course, we're getting ready for spring practice. And this is going to be one of the best spring practices ever because, the quarterback and, all the jobs that are open on the offensive side of the football and just how good this defense could be. And then the only other thing that we really didn't get into, and that's because there really hasn't been any news, is just wondering when the NCAA is going to make a decision on this one-time transfer so that we can kind of move forward on having Henry To'o join our linebacker core and maybe one of the modern defenses, maybe one of the great modern defenses of this era of football where it's really offensive driven. So all that coming up this week. And of course, you can always go to BamaInsider.com for the latest news on recruiting on Alabama. Tony does a great job of covering the Crimson Tide on a daily basis. And then Friday, Trey will have his show. Who are you going to have on this Friday? You going back after the Fluffster?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a young man named AJ Spur on with us. He writes for USA Today, Roll Tide Wires. So we'll be talking some Alabama.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. That does it for Monday Night Quarterback. Again, we appreciate all of you guys for being here with us. Make sure you subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget this and all of our shows are available as a podcast as well. Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Just swing over there, click, and listen, and give us a 5-star rating. Say thanks. All right, guys. Roll Tide.